You know that feeling when you're looking for something profound, something spiritual, but it just feels completely out of reach? Well, what if the answer wasn't tucked away in some remote cave, but was actually right here, right in front of us, in everything we see every single day? Today we are going to dive into a really powerful dialogue from the Śrīmad Bhagavatam, one that gives us a kind of guide for seeing the divine in the most, well, unexpected places.
So let's jump right in with the central paradox that really kicks off this whole journey. It's a question that, honestly, has echoed through the ages. If the divine is everywhere, why can't we see it? I mean, how can something be both totally omnipresent and at the same time completely invisible? It's a real head-scratcher. All right, here's our game plan. First, we'll look at a seeker's ultimate question. Then we'll see how it connects to a timeless dialogue. After that, we'll get into a practical guide to seeing, explore the essence of everything, and finally, we'll figure out how to take all this knowledge and actually put it into practice. So our story kicks off with a devoted seeker named Uddhava. He's got this incredibly personal and urgent question for his guide and friend, Lord Krishna. And it's all about perception, right? It's about how you bridge that gap between knowing something exists and, actually experiencing it for yourself. Now, the thing about Uddhava is he's not starting from zero here. He totally gets the big picture. He looks at Krishna and he's like, look, I know who you are. You're the supreme Brahman, the source of everything, the soul inside every single being. He's got the intellectual understanding down pat. But, and this is the key, that's exactly what makes his next question so incredibly powerful. And this is where he lays out the core of his problem. He says, you are hidden in plain sight. We are literally looking right at you, but we just don't see you. It's this beautiful, but also incredibly frustrating paradox, isn't it? If the divine is the very fabric of reality, then why are our own eyes, our own senses, so completely blind to it? And that is the question Krishna is about to unpack for him. So Krishna's response is just fascinating. Instead of just giving a straight answer, he does something really interesting. He connects Uddhava's question to another, way more famous conversation, one that happened under completely different circumstances. What he's doing is showing that this isn't just Uddhava's question. Nope, it's a universal human question. So he says to Uddhava, this sounds really familiar. I was asked this exact same thing by someone else, a great warrior, Arjuna, right in the middle of a battlefield. And just like that, the stakes are raised and the whole context gets way broader for us. And what's so cool here is the contrast, right? On one hand, you've got Uddhava, a seeker, in a totally calm setting, just wanting to deepen his worship. And on the other, you've got Arjuna, a warrior in a massive crisis on a battlefield, trying to figure out his duty. I mean, completely different people, totally different situations, but it's the same fundamental question. How do I see you, the divine, in the middle of all this? It just goes to show you this is a question for all of us, whether we're in a moment of peace or a moment of total crisis. All right, so how does Krishna actually give a practical guide? Well, he gives Uddhava, and by extension us, a brand new lens to look at the world with. It's a way to finally start perceiving what was hidden before. And the key concept here is this word vibhuti. The best way to think about it is like a divine manifestation, or maybe a flash of divine splendor. It's not the entirety of the divine, but it's like this powerful, concentrated glimpse of that excellence and power shining through something specific in our world. And the principle Krishna lays out is just beautifully simple. He basically says, hey, you want to find me, look for the peak. In any category you can think of, find the most excellent, the most powerful, the most awe-inspiring example. That pinnacle, that's a spark of my splendor. And this gives us some perfect examples to work with. Look, he's not saying he is a lion or he is the Himalayas. What he's saying is when you see the majestic power of a lion, or the life-giving force of the river Ganges, the purity of gold, or the sheer grandeur of the Himalayas, what you're witnessing is a vibhuti. It's a direct flash of that divine excellence.
And the list just keeps going, and it gets even more profound. He's the sun, the most radiant thing we know, the ocean, the greatest body of water. And then he even takes it into the realm of concepts. He is the letter A, the foundational sound of all language. He is time itself, the ultimate controller. It's basically a mental training exercise. Learn to see the supreme in the superlative. But just when we start getting comfortable with this whole idea of looking for the best of everything, Krishna completely blows up the definition. He's about to take us from seeing just the sparks of the divine to understanding the whole fire they come from. He makes it super clear that this whole list of vibhutis isn't just, a catalog of his favorite things. It's a starting point. These examples are designed to train our minds to see a much deeper, much more all-encompassing reality.
And this right here, this is the huge shift in understanding. Krishna basically says, I'm not just the lion, I'm the very soul inside all beings. I'm not just the ocean, I'm the fundamental elements, earth, air, fire, water, ether, that make up absolutely everything. I'm the mind. I'm even the three modes of nature, goodness, passion, and ignorance that drive every action. So you see, the divine isn't just in the peaks, it's the entire mountain range.
And just to drive home how massive this idea is, he delivers this absolutely stunning line. He says that he could, if he wanted to, count every single atom in existence, but he could never finish counting his own divine manifestations. His splendor is truly infinite. It's beyond any list, beyond any human comprehension. Wow.
So what are we supposed to do with this infinite knowledge? Well, Krishna gives us a super practical rule of thumb. He says, look, forget trying to memorize a list. It's impossible. Instead, wherever you see something truly exceptional, I'm talking about real brilliance, courage, beauty, or strength, just recognize it. Know in that moment that you are seeing a fraction, a tiny spark of that immeasurable divine splendor.
And that brings us to the final and maybe the most important part of this whole conversation. Krishna takes this massive, cosmic, philosophical discussion and he makes it deeply, deeply personal.
You could just imagine Uddhava asking, okay, this is amazing, but what do I actually do with this information? And it's a totally fair question, right? What's the point of learning to see the divine everywhere? What's the ultimate purpose of all this? And here's the pivot. Krishna explains that seeing his vibhutis, well, that's not the end goal. It's a meditation. It's a powerful tool to help you focus your mind and remember the divine source of everything. But the real work, the true practice, that's all internal. It's all about achieving self-mastery. Krishna then uses this incredible analogy to make the point crystal clear. He says that all the spiritual practices in the world, your vows, your charity, your austerities, they're all completely useless if you haven't controlled your own mind and speech. It's like trying to carry water in a clay pot that hasn't been baked. All your effort, all that good you're trying to do, it just leaks right out. So, the final instruction is just intensely practical. He says, control your speech, control your wandering mind, control your breath and your senses, and use your higher intelligence, your spiritual self, to subdue your lower, ego-driven self. That's how you stop the leaks. That's how you make your spiritual life truly meaningful and effective.
And that really brings us to the end of this journey. This dialogue, it gives us such a powerful new lens. It's asking us to look for that pinnacle of excellence, not just out there in nature, but right here in our own lives. So, I'll leave you with this question to think about. Whether it's in the courage of a friend, the brilliance of a new idea, the beauty of a piece of art, or just the resilience of the human spirit, where do you see that divine spark today?
Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're really immersing ourselves in, well, a truly monumental philosophical exchange.
Absolutely. It's incredibly profound final conversation between Sri Bhagavan, the Supreme Lord, and Uddhava, who is, his most dedicated disciple.
And it offers this unique roadmap, doesn't it? A way to understand something that seems, well, fundamentally unlimited.
Exactly. And that's the core mission today, really. We're looking at Uddhava's impossible question. How do you even begin to grasp the infinite?
Right.
And the Lord's response is fascinating. He gives this list, this kind of catalog of specific, tangible manifestations. They're called vibhuya.
Vibhutis.
Yeah.
So these are like concentrated points of divine power.
That's a great way to put it. Concentrated nodes of power in a cosmos that's just, frankly, too vast for our minds to fully process on their own. It's a pragmatic approach.
Okay, let's unpack that opening. Uddhava starts by framing the sheer scale of who he's talking to, right?
He does. He addresses the Lord as Brahma Paramam Sakat.
The supreme absolute truth.
And Anadi Antam.
Without beginning or end. It sets the stage for immensity.
Total immensity. And he acknowledges the Lord is the engine behind everything. Creation, maintenance, dissolution. That's the Tristiti Apiyayutho.
That's the foundational context laid out right there in Sloka 1, establishing the Lord as the absolute source.
But then, straight away in Sloka 2, Uddhava presents the learner's dilemma.
Which is?
If you are so vast, so absolute, then you are inherently Durjayan.
Difficult to understand.
Very difficult.
Yeah.
And not just for, say, ignorant beings. It applies even to the Akatatmafi.
The undisciplined souls.
Exactly. Whether they're high-up celestial beings or lowly creatures here on Earth, it doesn't matter.
So the barrier isn't lack of access necessarily, it's a lack of inner discipline. That's key.
That's precisely it. So if the ultimate truth is just too dazzling to stare at directly, Uddhava is asking for a different way in.
Like viewing the divine in fragments. Or his most powerful forms.
Exactly. Give me the specific vibhutaya, the opulences, the specific powers that are present everywhere. On Earth, Bhumo, in heaven, Nivi.
And even in the lower worlds, Rasayam.
Right. He wants a list, essentially, a list that great sages use, that devotees can focus on in their worship to achieve sasiti.
Ultimate perfection.
It's like asking for the ultimate spiritual shortcut, but one that still requires discipline from the seeker.
I really like the framing in Sloka 4, too, where Uddhava says the Lord moves hidden inside all beings.
As the Bhutatma, yeah, the soul of all creation.
But the deluded creatures, they just can't perceive him. He's right there, but unseen.
Which makes this list of opulences so necessary as a teaching tool, doesn't it?
It points the mind where to look. See the power here. That's me.
It's an interpretive lens. Look at these peak examples of power or perfection and recognize the source behind them.
But before diving into the list itself, the Lord does something important. He talks about the continuity of this knowledge.
Yes, and that's crucial for understanding spiritual authority and transmission.
Okay, so that brings us to this connection with Arjuna. Why is that the first major bridge in this dialogue? Slokas 6 through 8.
Well, the Lord reveals that Uddhava isn't the first person to ask this exact question.
Arjuna did.
Arjuna did. And significantly, he asked it in the Randhumdani,
In the midst of battle, right on the battlefield of Kurukshetra.
which connects this final teaching directly back to the Bhagavad Gita, the foundational teaching. We know the context there was intense. Arjuna was facing a massive crisis.
And not just fear of fighting, right? It was deeper, moral paralysis.
Absolutely. He saw the Janivadam killing his own kin for the sake of a kingdom, Rajyahetukam.
And he called it Garyamadharna, condemnable and irreligious. He felt trapped.
Trapped by the idea that he was the doer, and the consequence would inevitably be sin. A very worldly perspective.
So the Lord says here that Arjuna was pratibodhita.
Enlightened, reasoned with, using logic, yuktiya, to get him past the surface level, past the material results of action.
And the significance of bringing this up now for Uddhava.
It implies that understanding these vibhutis, this divine omnipresence, it only really comes after you've understood your essential duty, your dharma, and learned to detach from the fruits of your actions.
So the Lord is basically checking Uddhava's qualifications first, making sure he gets that duty trumps personal feelings.
It seems like it sets a very high bar for receiving this deeper knowledge. You need that foundational understanding first.
Okay, qualification established. Then the Lord moves to his core identity.
Right. Before defining what he is in the world, he defines who he is fundamentally. Sloka 9 starts with that ultimate statement, Aham Atma,
I am the soul.
the core consciousness, and the Suddhavara.
The well-wishing Lord and controller of all beings. The inner friend, essentially.
Exactly. And then in Sloka 10, we get this incredible expansion of his dynamic functions. It's not just static being, it's active power.
He says, I am the ultimate goal of those who strive, Gatamatam.
Think about that. Any movement, any ambition, any search, its ultimate endpoint, by definition, is him.
Wow, okay. And then the connection to time.
Yes, kala kalayatam aham. I am time for those who calculate or measure.
That's profound. Not just eternity, but the active mechanism of measurement itself, the clock ticking.
The movement of atoms, the very thing that defines material reality. Time is the measure, and he's the ultimate measure, the ultimate calculator.
It's such a dynamic way to define omnipresence, not just being everywhere, but being the fundamental function of everything.
And he's also the balance, Samya, among the material modes, the ganam.
Sattva, Rajas, Tamas. How does being the balance define his power there?
Well, the material world runs on the constant push and pull, the imbalance of these modes, creation, rajas, maintenance, sattva, destruction, tamas. They're always in conflict.
Right.
If the Lord was just identified with one, say sattva, the whole system would collapse. By being the balance, the equilibrium point.
He holds it all together.
Exactly. He's the underlying stability, the constant tension that allows the cosmic dance to happen without dissolving into chaos.
Okay, that covers the macrocosm. But then Sloka 11 shifts focus, doesn't it, to the microcosm, the individual.
Absolutely. And this is where it gets really pointed for you, the listener, the individual learner.
He says, among subtle things, Sukhaman, he is the jiva.
The living soul, that irreducible spark of consciousness animating each body, the very essence of life.
But then comes the line that really jumps out. Among the unconquerable, Durje Nam.
He is the mel, the mind.
Wait a second. The mind. The thing that causes us so much trouble. The source of distraction, internal conflict. Our biggest obstacle, often.
That very same mind.
If that's identified as a divine, unconquerable power, doesn't that blow up the whole idea of self-mastery? How can we possibly subdue something defined as unconquerable?
You've hit the absolute crux of it. That's the pivotal paradox here.
Okay.
The mind is unconquerable by external means. You can't just beat it into submission with brute force. Its power is divine because it's the most sophisticated instrument of consciousness we have.
So the Lord is defining the nature of the challenge.
Precisely. He's saying, look, the very tool you need to use to reach me, your mind, is itself one of my most powerful manifestations.
So subduing the mind isn't about destroying it.
No, it's about recognizing its divine potential and redirecting its unconquerable energy, turning that power back towards its source, towards the divine.
Okay. So the goal isn't killing the mind, it's mastering the unconquerable, which is, wow, the ultimate test of intelligence and devotion, really.
Exactly. And that makes controlling the manat absolutely central to Uddhava's whole request for this list of manifestations. It sets up everything that follows. So now that the foundation is laid, he is time, soul, the mind. We get into the descriptive list.
The vibhutis themselves.
Yes, and this list gives us tangible things, specific examples we can use to redirect our minds, to meditate on. It shows where the Lord's brilliance shines most brightly across all different categories of existence.
Okay, let's start where the text does, with the sort of abstract foundational stuff, verbal, cosmic, ritual manifestations, Slokas 12, 13, 23.
Right. So in the realm of knowledge itself, among the Vedas, he is Hiranyagarbha.
Brahma, the personification of cosmic intelligence, the source of the Vedas.
Yeah, emphasizing the creative power within knowledge. Then, moving to pure sound, among mantras, he is the Pradva.
Okara. And he specifically calls it Trivut, having three parts, A-U-M. Why emphasize that?
Because Okara is seen as the sonic body of the Absolute. Those three parts represent everything, the three states of consciousness. Waking, dreaming, deep sleep. The three gunas, sattva, rajas, tamas.
So by being the Prechava, he's the essential vibration beneath the whole manifest universe.
That's the idea. And even more fundamentally, among simple letters or syllables, he is Akar.
The first sound, the one you make without your tongue touching anything. Primal.
The absolute starting point of articulation. You see the progression. From the potential in A to the structured whole of R to the vast body of the Vedas.
Yeah, it shows the divine emerging through organized knowledge and creative sound.
And this pattern identifying with the greatest in each category continues with the gods.
Right. Among the devas, he's Indra.
Chief executive power. Among the Vasis, he's Agni, specifically Havyavo.
The acceptor of oblations, highlighting his presence in sacrifice, the connection point.
Exactly. And interestingly, among the Aityas, the solar deities, he is Viyu.
Himself, reinforcing his own identity within that lineage.
That among the Rudras, the destructive forces, he is Nalohita.
A form of Shiva. So he's claiming leadership, transformation, destruction, the whole spectrum within the divine families.
Pretty comprehensive. And then in terms of religious practice itself, he makes a key distinction in Sloka 23.
What's that?
Among all sacrifices, yajnanam, he says he is the brahmayana.
The study of the Vedas. Not a fire ritual.
Right. It elevates intellectual and spiritual pursuit contemplation. Study as the highest form of offering, above purely material rites. Yeah. #tag, be sages, social order, and leaders.
Okay, let's shift from the cosmic and ritual to the human realm, the pinnacles of wisdom, society, leadership. The manifestations here seem really focused on authority and perfected discipline.
They really do. Slokas 14, 15, 19 lay out these exemplary figures. He divides the sages by their domain.
How so?
Among the Brahmanes, the highest sages focused on the absolute. He is Vugu, mastery of Brahman.
Okay.
Among the Rajayas, the royal sages, he is Manu, the ideal lawgiver, righteous ruler.
Governance.
And among the Devardis, the divine sages who travel all realms, He is Narada.
The ultimate devotee and messenger. So wisdom, governance, devotion, all covered.
And he also includes the source of creation, Dak among the progenitors, Prajapatiyam, and Aryama among the Pis, the ancestors, covering lineage too.
And there's a specific mention of the origin of key knowledge systems.
Yes, among the Siddhartha most perfected beings, he's Kapila Muni.
Founder of Sokya philosophy, representing that sharp analytical knowledge.
Ultimate clarity through analysis. And then look at the priestly figures mentioned.
2 types, right? Masyuha and Baspati.
Exactly. Vatsya among priests, Purothasam, stands for perfect ritual execution, family guidance, impeccable practice.
Okay.
But among the true knowers of Brahmana, he is the Haspati, the guru of the gods, transcendent wisdom, the ability to actually impart the ultimate reality.
So both ritual skill and deep wisdom are divine manifestations.
Both are covered. And then for the intellectual arts, the organizers and creators.
Vedavyasa, Dayapayana, among the compilers, Vaisanam.
Right. The divine shines through in the act of organizing, compiling, preserving sacred knowledge. That itself is an opulence.
And among poets, Kavanam, he is Sukra or Kavya.
Meaning that profound capacity for beautiful, insightful, creative expression, poetic genius isn't just random talent. It's a focal point of divine energy.
Okay, now what about the social structures themselves? He mentions the Varnas.
Yes, among the Varnas, the classes, he is the Brahman, the Prathama, the first.
Now, how should we understand that?
It's crucial to see it philosophically, not sociologically, about birthright in this context. The Brahman's ideal represents the pinnacle of knowledge, purity, spiritual guidance. It's about the function of selfless knowledge within society.
So the ideal embodiment of that function is where the divine manifests most clearly in the social order.
That seems to be the implication. And then he identifies with the culmination of the individual life journey.
Among the aramas, the 4 stages of life.
He is sannyasa, the 4th stage, turiya, renunciation.
Why is renunciation itself listed as the divine opulence?
Because it represents the ultimate turning away from the temporary towards the eternal. It's the life stage where that discipline Uddhava was concerned about is meant to be perfected.
So sannyasa is like the institutionalized path toward realizing that absolute identity we talked about.
Exactly. It's the peak human manifestation of self-control, redirecting the mind fully.
Makes sense. And finally, for external power and leadership.
Among generals, Sarva Sananyam, he's Skanda Kartikeya. Strategic perfection in leadership.
The ultimate warrior leader.
But among leaders in general, Agranyam, he's even higher. Aja, the unborn lord.
Meaning inherent authority, not earned or appointed.
Precisely. Self-manifested, eternal leadership. The ultimate source of authority itself. ##C. Anomalies and unique beings.
Okay, this next category is fascinating. What I'd maybe call the anomalies beings, where the divine quality shines through in unexpected, even contradictory ways.
Yes, this is where the teaching gets really powerful and, frankly, quite accessible. It's a brilliant theological move.
You're talking about Prahlada.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Sloka 16. Among the Daityas, he says, know me to be Prala.
Who was born into this lineage totally opposed to the divine. His father, Hiranyakashipu,
was dedicated to destroying God. Yet Prahlada's devotion, his bhakti, was so pure, so unwavering.
It transcended his birth, his environment, everything.
Exactly. It proves that the Lord's opulence manifests through absolute spiritual merit, through internal purity. Devotion overrides all material constraints, societal, genetic, whatever.
That's a hugely powerful message. Internal quality trumps external labels.
Completely. And then comes maybe the most intimate line in the whole list.
For Uddhava himself.
Yes. Among the devotees, Bhagavatam, the Lord says, essentially, you, Uddhava, are myself.
Wow. That elevates the listener, the sincere devotee, to the status of a divine manifestation themselves.
It's the peak realization of Bhakti Yoga. Through that total, unreserved dedication, the line between the worshiper and the worshipped starts to dissolve.
Incredible. And there are other unique figures mentioned too, embodying singular perfections.
Right. Hanuman among the Kimpuru's unparalleled service, strength, loyalty, celibacy. Sudarshana among the Vidyaras, masters of subtle arts and celestial beings.
And then very practically among human beings, Manutnam.
The king, Bhubatim, representing order, protection, rightful authority in the human sphere. #D, natural world, time, and abstract qualities.
Okay, the list now really grounds itself in the material world, identifying the divine in the best of nature, time, even human character. This is where omnipresence becomes almost tangible.
The principle is clearly about finding the superlative, the most powerful, the most unique in each category. So among large animals.
Airavata the elephant, Ukaishava the horse, the best of the best.
And among beasts with horns or fangs, he's the lion, Magendra.
Why the lion specifically?
Unchallenged power, majesty, the apex predator. It embodies raw, natural dominance, the pinnacle of biological might in that category.
Okay. And then we go into the hidden aspects of nature, the serpentine realms.
Vasuki among the serpents, Serpram. And then even greater, Anantashuf among the serpent kings.
Nashashafasham, who represents the eternal sustainer holding up the universe.
Exactly. Ultimate stability and cosmic support. Then geographically.
He identifies with both the inaccessible and the foundational. Mount Meru among abodes, Damam.
The cosmic center, the ultimate abode.
Yeah.
And the Himalayas among inaccessible mountains, Gatham.
Representing height, stability, but also difficulty. Again, requiring effort, discipline to approach.
Absolutely. And among waters, the Ganges, Tirthana, for purity.
And the ocean, Samudrada, for depth and vastness.
Covering both sacred purity and sheer immensity. Even basic materials and tools get included.
Gold, Kanyakanam, among metals. The standard of purity, value.
The bow, Dan, among weapons representing the tool needed for righteous defense or upholding Dharma.
And among archers, he's the destroyer of Tripura, Tripuragna.
Which is Shiva again, highlighting supreme, focused skill, even destructive skill when needed for cosmic balance.
Okay, and the final natural category is time itself, broken down.
Right. He is the entire year, Savatsar. Among seasons, he's spring, Madhumatamo, representing renewal, balance, flourishing.
Among months, Margaja, often seen as the purest or most auspicious month.
And among the great ages, the Yuganam, he is the Satya Yuga, Katam, the age of truth, when virtue is at its absolute peak.
This whole tour through creation is incredible, and it all leads up to Sloka 40, which feels like the most directly applicable insight for us.
It really is. It lists 10 great abstract qualities. And the Lord says, wherever these are found, know that a portion of my power, me Oshaka, is present.
This feels like the democratizing part of the list. It's not just about cosmic beings or mythical mountains anymore.
Exactly. These are ethical virtues, character traits that humans can cultivate and recognize in each other.
What are they?
Brilliance or splendor, Desha. Prosperity, fame, kirti. Opulence or lordship, Aisvaryam. Modesty.
Modesty is in there. That's interesting, alongside opulence.
Yes. Also renunciation, Chiga, good fortune or beauty, Saubhagam. Valor, Virya. Tolerance or forbearance, Titika. And finally, realized knowledge, Vijanam.
So we don't have to search only for the grandest things. We can see the divine manifesting right here in someone's exceptional character.
In their humility, their knowledge, their courage, their ability to renounce, it gives you an immediate ethical way to perceive divine presence in the everyday world. Okay, so the list is complete. It's exhaustive, detailed. But now the Lord has to pivot philosophically.
Because the list, however long, is ultimately incomplete.
Fundamentally inadequate, yes. It served its purpose as a guide, an introduction. But the true scope, it's immeasurable. So now he explains his role as the ultimate controller behind all forces.
Right, moving beyond identifying with things to being the power behind the functioning of things. Sloka 36 gets really dense here.
It does. He runs through the powers, the 10 senses, moving, speaking, grasping, tasting, hearing, smelling, and so on. All the ways we interact with the world.
And he summarizes it how?
Sarvendriyendriyam. I am the controller and the power of all the senses.
So not just the object seen, but the very capacity to see.
Exactly. The fundamental ability for light to register as sight or sound waves as hearing that capacity is his manifestation. It's the energy driving the sense organs.
Which implies then that every failure of sense control is really a misuse or misunderstanding of that inherent divine energy within the senses.
That's a deep implication, yes. And in Sloka 37, he goes even deeper, to the absolute bedrock of reality.
The elements.
Yes, he confirms his identity with earth, air, ether, water, fire, the physical building blocks.
But he includes more subtle things too.
Crucially, yes, the metaphysical structures that precede the physical world. He identifies with the Mahat Tattva,
Which is?
the totality of material energy, the great subtle principle, the cosmic intelligence from which everything else evolves, the unmanifest potential starting to stir.
And he also identifies with false ego, the supreme person, the unmanifest. How do those fit together?
It maps out the whole spiritual landscape. Avyakta is the unmanifest source, pure potentiality. Matattva is that potential activating. Vikara, the false ego, is the principle of individuation, the thing that creates the sense of I and mine, separating us from the whole.
Okay.
And he says, he is all of it. The raw potential of Yaktata, the activated energy, Mahatta, the separating mechanism, Vikara, and the Purua, the supreme person, the original consciousness witnessing it all.
So, he's the entire spectrum, from unmanifest potentiality through the mechanism of illusion, right up to the ultimate sustaining reality.
The whole show, which leads directly into the absolute, undeniable statement in Sloka 38.
The philosophical knockout punch.
Pretty much. Nabhavo vidyatek fasi. Without me as the supreme lord, as the individual soul, jiva as the total existence, mahat, etc., absolutely nothing can exist anywhere at any time.
He is the necessary condition for everything, non-negotiable.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then comes the statement in Sloka 39 that puts the whole preceding list into its proper, humbling context.
The part about counting atoms.
Yes. He says, if he wanted to, he could, through time, Kalina, count every single atom in the universe.
Which is a statement of unimaginable precision and control over the smallest units of matter.
Mind-boggling control. But he bitterly follows up. Even with that power to count every atom, he says, my opulences in creating millions upon millions of universes, anikusho, cannot be measured or enumerated.
So the list we just spent all this time analyzing
Is less than a grain of sand compared to the beach, less than a pinprick. It's an acknowledgement that human intellect, human language, is just infinitely too small to capture the totality of his creative power.
Which begs the question again, why give the list at all if it's so fundamentally limited?
Sloka 41 gives the answer. It's about the nature of mind and language.
Okay.
He explicitly calls all those vibhutis. He listed the Tsokapana, described only in brief, summarized. And then, the crucial insight. They are merely manovikara,
Transformations of the mind.
expressed through words, akabhidhyate. The list is a mental construct, a conceptual tool. It's useful only as a guide, a starting point for contemplation.
But true understanding means going beyond the list.
It means recognizing that the names and forms are pointers, created by the mind, useful only if they lead the mind back towards the underlying formless, immeasurable reality they represent. The list is a map, not the territory.
Okay, so that philosophical pivot, the list, is just a mental tool, and the mind itself is this unconquerable divine power, brings us right back to the individual listener, doesn't it?
It has to. If the mind is the key instrument and the key challenge, then the path to perfection must be about mastering and redirecting that mind.
And that's exactly where the Lord goes next, the essential practical takeaway.
Right. Uddhava asked about vidyatis, outward manifestations, but the ultimate answer comes back to inner discipline. Sloka 42 is pure yogic instruction.
Control speech.
Control the mind
Control the life airs.
and control the senses. Indriya, it's comprehensive.
And the method. It's not about relying on something external.
No, it's admanam atmaniyacha.
Yeah.
Subdue the self by the self, using your higher intelligence, your discriminating self, to master the lower inclinations.
Self-reliance guided by wisdom. And the result, if you achieve this.
Freedom. Nabuya kalpazid vain. You will no longer be subject to the path of material existence, the cycle of birth and death.
That's the goal. But then comes a really important warning, doesn't it? For those who try this path but maybe don't do it properly.
Yes, the famous analogy in Sloka 43, the leaking pot.
It's such a vivid image. He describes an ascetic, a yatya, who fails to control speech and mind vakmanasi with real intelligence, diya.
And even though this person might be performing intense vows, austerities, giving charity, all that effort just drains away. It doesn't accumulate.
Like water leaking from an unbaked clay pot, amaga ambuvet.
Exactly. You pour the precious water of your efforts, austerities, charity, vows into this vessel, the mind-speech complex. But if that vessel hasn't been properly prepared, properly fired in the kiln of intelligent control,
It just leaks out, holds nothing, wasted effort.
all outward virtue becomes ineffective if the inner container, the disciplined mind and controlled speech, isn't sound. It lacks integrity.
So, if the pot is our discipline, our practice, and the water is the virtue generated, what's the fire that bakes the pot? What makes it strong enough to hold the water?
That's the final synthesis. The heat is devotion, but specifically devotion guided by wisdom.
Sloka 44 brings it all together.
Yes. The highest success, the culmination, comes from controlling speech, mind, and life airs, using Mad Bhakti Udaya Buddhya.
Intelligence endowed with my devotion.
That's the key combination. Discipline alone, without devotion, can become dry, rigid, maybe even prideful. It's like the pot is formed but remains unbaked, brittle.
And devotion without discipline.
Can be purely sentimental, uncontrolled, maybe even fanatical. It lacks the structure of the sound vessel.
So the two have to merge. Intelligence infused with dedication, wisdom and love working together.
That's the path to parasamapyate, ultimate perfection. The goal isn't just control for control's sake. It's control rooted in and motivated by dedication to the divine source.
So the entire dialogue, starting with this vast cosmic list, ultimately circles back to the necessity of mastering your own mind.
That's the core message. Mastering the mind, which we learned is the most potent, the unconquerable manifestation of the Lord within us, is both the path and the goal.
It's powerful because it puts the locus of control and the potential for realization right back inside each of us. The list of vibhutis helps us see the divine out there, but the real work is in here.
Using knowledge, discipline, and devotion, all centered in your own consciousness. #OutUTRO. So, to quickly summarize, we've seen the divine is this incredibly vast, almost unimaginable creator of countless universes.
And yet, simultaneously, he's the specific power found in the most subtle elements, the living soul, and crucially, the mind itself.
The grandest and the smallest.
Yeah.
And the path to truly understanding, or at least approaching, this boundless reality isn't ultimately about memorizing the list of opulences.
The list is a helpful guide, right, for focusing the mind.
Absolutely helpful as a guide, but the real path is achieving that deep internal control over your own self, your speech, your mind, your senses, using intelligence that's infused with devotion.
Which brings us to our final thought for you to reflect on.
We established that the ultimate unconquerable element, according to this text, is the mind, mana. We also saw that the highest stage of life, the peak spiritual structure, ashrama, is identified as renunciation, sannyasa. And elsewhere in related thought, the highest skill, kaushalana, is often considered logic or critical inquiry, amakiki.
Okay, so mind, renunciation, logic.
So here's the question for you. What synthesis of renunciation, maybe not literal, but detachment from results and critical discerning thought can you apply in your life starting today to approach the mastery of that unconquerable mind?
How can you bring together that discipline, detachment, and sharp intelligence to achieve greater self-control and through that, move towards your own form of perfection?
Something to think about. Until the next deep dive.